प्रातस्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवेति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। देहेन्द्रियगुणान् कर्मान् व्यमले सच्चिदात्मनि अध्यस्यन्त्यविवेकेन गगने नीलतादिवत् अज्ञानान्मानसोपाधेः कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि कल्प्यन्ते मुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्भसः रागेच्छा सुखदुःखादि बुद्धौ सत्यां प्रवर्तते सुषुप्तौ नास्ति तन्नाशे तस्मात् बुद्धेस्तु नात्मनः प्रकाशोऽर्कस्य तो यस्य शैत्यमग्नेर्यथोष्णता स्वभावः सच्चिदानन्द नित्यनिर्मलतात्मनः आत्मनः सच्चिदंशश्च बुद्धेर्वृत्तिरिति द्वयम् संयोज्य च विवेकेन जानामीति प्रवर्तते आत्मनो विक्रिया नास्ति बुद्धेर्बोधो न जातीति जीवः सर्वमलं ज्ञात्वा ज्ञाता द्रष्टेति मुह्यति रज्जु सर्पवदात्मानम् जीवो ज्ञात्वा भयं वहेत् नाहं जीवः परात्मेति ज्ञातश्चेन्निर्भयो भवेत् आत्मावभासयत्येको बुद्ध्यादीनीन्द्रियाण्यपि दीपो घटादिवत् स्वात्मा जडैस्तैर्नावभास्यते स्वबोधे नान्यबोधे च बोधरूपतयात्मनः न दीपस्यान्यदीपेच्छा यथा स्वात्मप्रकाशने निषिध्य निखिलोपाधीन्नेति नेतीति वाक्यतः नित्यादैक्यं महावाक्यैर्जीवात्मपरमात्मनोः.
We'll chant verse 21.
देहेन्द्रियगुणान् कर्मान् व्यमले सच्चिदात्मनि अध्यस्यन्त्यविवेकेन गगने नीलतादिवत्.
Owing to non-discrimination, the qualities and activities of the body and the sense organs are superimposed on the stainless Atman, which is existence, consciousness absolute. Just as blue color and the like are attributed to the sky. This topic is explaining about how material equipments superimpose the world upon the Brahman or Atman. So, starting from verse 19, the same thought flow is getting repeated. It will go for another 2 verses up to 23, only with slight differentiation in angle. Whatever we studied in 19 is what is elaborated, we can say, in 21, 22 and 23. In 19, if you remember, he said, the clouds are moving, but the moon seems to be moving. Just like that, every activity is pertaining to the equipments, but it seems as though the Atma is moving. This is a wrong notion, he said. This wrong notion is what is getting explained in the subsequent verses up to verse 23. In this verse, Atma is referred to as Amala. Amala means stainless, no dirt, pure, absolutely pure. Anything is called pure, or the definition of purity is when nothing else apart from it is in it. They talk about whenever they give in bank gold coins and other thing, they say 99% pure or 99.9% pure. Like that they say. It can never be 100% pure. It is not possible to extract it like that. We have seen that in the when we studied the gross body, all the elements do get mixed. It is what we see is, and however much you try purest form of water or purest form of any metal or any other element, there will be something apart from it in it. So it could be 1% copper or whatever it is, or 0.1%, or 99% copper, 1% gold. Yet it cannot be called as absolutely pure. What is pure is, apart from it, nothing must be there in it. That is called absolute purity. And only Brahman qualifies for this, because Brahman does not allow anything else to be present in it. Because anything else is not there. That is the truth. So it is referred to as Amala, stainless. Nothing else is there in the Atman. Like the sky. Among the elements, the purest form of element is sky, space. This space, when we look up, the sky looks concave. Sky is not concave. It is due to the curvature of the earth. The earth is curved, so it seems to be curved there also. Like that it comes there. And then blue color is attributed to sky. Blue is not the color of the sky. When the light gets refracted through the suspended water molecules or particles there, that is where it gets refracted. Sometimes you see rainbow also. Rainbow is not the color. That is one time it comes like that. Similarly, various dust and other things that are there, they do get reflected in the existing light there, and that is attributed to sky. Sky is not of any color. And most importantly, any of these attributes, if you give it to sky also, it remains unaffected. It is your mistaken notion that you attribute it. Sky is not one bit touched by it. Exactly like that, guna and karma of the body and the senses are attributed to Atman. They do not belong to Atman. They belong to your mind, body and the senses. Body goes through constant flux of change. It results in birth and death. This birth and death is inappropriately attributed to Atma. That is, Atma is dying and Atma is being born. This is a wrong notion. Similarly, Indriyas have the sense of doership and enjoyership sitting in the mind, which is further explained in the next 2 verses. But this doership and enjoyership of the sense organs, that is attributed to Atma, that I am doing and I am enjoying. That is also a wrong notion. This is wrongly attributed to Atman, he says. What is interesting is, Sat, Chit and Ananda, this is Swabhava. As we chanted today in verse 24, it comes, this is the Swabhava, the real nature of the Atman. This real nature of Atman is actually attributed wrongly, or not wrongly, it is unconsciously attributed to the body and the mind. The Sat aspect of the consciousness, Sat aspect of the Brahman is what is there shown as existence of the body. The Chit aspect of the Brahman is what is shown as the knowledge aspect. So actually what is happening is that real nature is getting reflected here. But what we do is we do the opposite, that what belongs to the body, mind and senses we attribute it to the Atman. This is called, why that is why he says as avivekana. Avivekana means by wrong discrimination or non-discrimination. It's a stupid notion. That notion is not correct. But what is the essential truth is, as Swami Ramtirtha says, we said that Satchidananda is actually the expression that is seen here. Exactly like that, whatever is the true nature of Atman, that we unconsciously throw upon our individuality, including the body. For example, everybody believes that we are never going to die. Though we may write poetry about death, though intellectually here we may understand, practically nobody believes in death. A lady was carrying a log of wood on her head, which was very heavy on a hot sun. She is walking. And at one point it becomes too much pain, so she throws the log of wood down and says, "When will Yama come and take me?" So the story is Yama appears there. "You called me," he said, "and I have come." No, it was, I can't lift it alone. I need somebody. That's why I called you, she said. So when people talk about death and all these things, it comes from the mouth. It doesn't really come from the heart. Nobody believes in it. That is why the proof is the oldest person also keeps on scheming and planning as though he is going to live forever. Even the irresistible urge for progeny, or even in business and other things, they say, they and sons and family are like that. They keep on. There is always this wanting to be immortal. You never want to die. And you don't believe in it actually, death. The reason is that the Atma is immortal. This is the reason. Atma is immortal, and that immortality he puts it on the body, that it is never going to die. Similarly, everybody believes that he is absolutely pure. He has no sins at all. Even if a person has this notion that yes, I have committed a mistake or sin, certainly there is a parallel notion that at least I am aware, or at least I am admitting that. If a person, like in a true Christian way, I am just saying, if he goes and even confesses the sin that he has committed this, when he comes out, if somebody calls him a sinner, he will get offended. Because deep within himself, he doesn't believe that he has done anything wrong. Just because we cannot do anything wrong is the notion that we have. What is the reason? We are pure. That is the reason. We are pure. The Atma is pure. That purity unconsciously we transfer to the body and the mind, that it cannot do anything wrong. Swami Ramtirtha goes one step further and says, we studied in the 13th, 12th verse about the gross body. Gross body, there we studied that it is made up of the tamasic elements. He gives another angle to it. By itself, the body doesn't move. He says because unconsciously you attribute the all-pervading nature of the Atma here. All-pervading Atma, where and how it can move. So he's saying unconsciously you are using all the attributes of Atma only. Unconsciously, maybe you cannot say unconsciously you can be conscious, but that is what you believe. That is what you deeply, but it is just that the notion of I comes to the individuality, and that is all not even in the background. It is just not there in our mind. But that is what consciously we need to bring it by studying Atma Bodha and other verses. So, time and again, this truth is being emphasized again and again, that all the activities that you see, everything that you See here, it does not belong to Atma. It belongs to your body. It belongs to your senses. It belongs to your mind. That is where all the activities are. What is then Atma doing? It is sitting there behind as a witness consciousness, making everything happen. This relationship has to be perfectly understood. Only then we will be able to take charge of our karma in the proper way also. Then we will know exactly how to do karma. It is, otherwise we sometimes blame God, or we say that He is partial, giving something to somebody and not to me. Like that it is. All that is not, it's sorted out if you understand this. As long as you do karma at the level of the material equipments, that is getting done, and the results of it is all coming in that side only. Atma is just as a pure consciousness witness, make sure that all these things are happening properly. And as a controller of the law, he makes sure that the right results come to the right action to everybody. That's about all. That is the relationship here. Owing to non-discrimination, the qualities and activities of the body and the sense organs are superimposed on the stainless Atman, which is existence, consciousness, absolute, just as blue color and the like are attributed to the sky.
Very fundamental question. So why does something pure allow itself to be superimposed by something impure? Pure is supposed to be more powerful than impure.
Correct. So when you say superimposed by something impure, that itself is a falsehood. Then you are talking about two things. Something is pure and something is impure. That notion itself has to be taken out. Only pure is there. And that it is allowing itself to be superimposed is again a false statement. It is not allowing anything to be superimposed. It is presenting itself as it is. That is why Atma Bodha and other texts are time and again saying it is our stupid notion that we are seeing it like that. On the other hand, that statement that you make is not made by a jnani because he sees clearly as it is. So, it is our false notion. In other words, if you take this question by the thread to the logical end, it only boils down to the final question of Vedanta, that why is Maya so powerful that it covers even the Brahman? That is where it boils down to. The truth is, it is not so. Maya is under the control of Mayavi or Mayapati, who is beyond Maya only. Okay. It is like you attribute the movement to the moon and not to the cloud because of the false perception. Exactly like that, it is a false perception that as though God's power is veiled by the power of Maya and He is not available or He is not visible for us. So it is not the answer to the question, it is only pointing out to the fallacy in the question. If Atma's power is actually veiled or controlled or covered by ignorance or Maya, whatever it is, then what happens is, then infinite will not be able to express its infinite nature in and through all our activities. But that is not the case. Even as you are considering yourself to be limited now, you are expressing that infinite time and again, not with reference to past and future, even in the present. See, past means, if you go to your roots, trace back to your father's first father, there's never a ending a chain it is. Okay. So your chain belongs to an infinite past. And all the essence of that is what is you. So you are not really you. You are a series of chain starting from infinity in the past. Then what is your power in the future? Again, your son, he will have a son, he will have a son. You know that the potential of that is again ad infinitum going into the future. Past and future we may understand, we may agree, but what about present? So Vedanta says in the present also you are infinite. In the Vedanta treatise last chapter, he says, it talks about a event or a scientific phenomenon explained in Science 85 magazine. He says, before you register a sight of seeing a lady across the street and registering that it's your friend Sally. So, and this is science in 1985. At that point itself, they have understood how much of millions of calculations are happening within your eyes, nervous system, brain and all other functions before you just register. But at that point of time, you are just not seeing. See, there are millions of calculations going from your nerve centers, and then the image is formed, and that image which is formed is corrected, and it is understood properly, it is interpreted by the brain. All this is pertaining to one site. Okay, so one site involves millions of calculations and activities, but you are just not seeing at that point of time. You are breathing, you are walking, you are balancing, your heart is pumping blood, your kidney is doing its function, everything else is functioning also at that same point of time. So if you calculate all this belongs to who? You. Your body, you are doing it. So at any point of time, who are you actually? You are not the finite body that you believe yourself to be, or the finite thoughts. It is an infinite nature that is actually functioning in you at this point of time. Now, if you go into that power which makes this all function, which is you only, we say, is that any different from any other power that is functioning anywhere else, which makes the sun shine, which makes the flowers flower, which makes the birds fly? It is the same power. So, at any point of time, you are the expression of that infinite only. This thought has to be very deeply, not just understood, it should be felt, it should be realized. And then this question will not arise as though that infinite nature, why it is allowing to be covered. It is not getting covered. It is actually expressing itself. Our false notion and our ignorance that we are not able to see it. That's about all. That ignorance is like a cloud covering the sun. Cloud is too small compared to the sun. Because of the proximity of us, it is covering. That's it.
So then when we talk about the 5 sheets to finally reach the Satchitanand state.
Yeah.
So these again are false illusions that we have all the 5 sheets.
Correct. All the coverings that are there are false notions. But we have got attached to that false notion so powerfully that it sort of clings on to us. So with powerful saw of discrimination, Viveka, that's why Atma Bodha in that text gives a strong reason, logic and contemplative material. For you to cut that sheath one by one, you have to sort of remove it. So the whole idea is to remove that covering and to be established in that pure Atma that you are.
When we say Brahman is purity personified out, just for our understanding, we say you cannot attain the light of speed of light. Because as you go on accelerating, as one comes, then you cannot accelerate anymore because the weight becomes infinite. But the weight becomes infinite, yes. Similarly, if you go search for more and more, purer, at one point, nothing, but absolutely nothing can become 100% pure except that one entity. Is that correct?
No, that is correct. But in your notion also, if I am correct, there was at one point of time it was considered the speed of light is infinity. Later, science proved that light itself has a finite speed. That's why in the equation E is equal to mc square, he says that 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second is the speed of the light. So it is not infinity. Okay.
No, even the speed of light cannot be achieved.
At present, your mind is faster than the speed, I would say. Before light can go somewhere, you are.
No, I'm talking about physical.
Mind is matter. Remember that light is matter, mind is matter, everything is matter. So there is no, there need not be any confusion there. But it is true that when we are talking about reaching the state of absolute purity, you are trying to extend your thought, make it thinner and thinner, make your mind polished and polished, like it's not a very convenient example, but somebody, children, sometimes they eat the chewing gum in the wrong way and it gets stuck in the teeth and it doesn't come out fully. They keep on pulling it, it comes out in smaller and smaller threads. It can never, as though it can be taken out fully. It becomes thinner and thinner, like that it becomes. Like that, we seem to have this notion, if you go by the mathematics of it, karma, bhakti, jnana, bulk of thoughts become this much, then you become a renunciate, then you have fewer thoughts to deal with, then you do higher sadhana, then you go into the level of dharana and dhyana, which is meditation. At that meditation, it can come to single pointed thought. That's all we can conceive. And that single pointed thought can be maintained by the chant and the silence of the japa. like that it goes. But really how that thought snaps, we really do not know. Okay, but in actual practice, all the great masters have shown at some point of time it does snap. It does snap. See, mathematically speaking, suppose, just say for the argument's sake, there is a swimming in the ocean, there is a race. From here you have to go to Andaman or some far off place. Let's say 100 kilometers. Okay? Few people are venturing into it. First 1 hour, you will cover half of the distance. Assume. Next 1 hour, you will cover the half of the remaining. Next 1 hour, you will cover the half of the remaining. Like that. When will you reach? Never. You cannot reach. It will become a half plus 1 by 4 plus 1 by 8 plus 1 by 16. Like that. So it can never reach it will become 99.9 like that it will go. It can never. But in practice, in actual thing, you will actually reach it at some point of time. Isn't it? Your body length itself, it will be, whatever is the fraction, that will be smaller than that. You will reach. It is exactly like that. At some point of time, that is the sacred moment of realization that the thought snaps and what remains is the pure self. So there also, it is not that finite has jumped into infinite or something. Infinite that you always are is realized. That's all. So it is not that infinite is created out of finite or infinite is achieved as you achieve success or money or something like that. It is already existing infinite that is actually being realized. So at one point of time it does happen. That infinite state is reached. We'll chant verse 22.
अज्ञानान्मानसोपाधेः कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि कल्प्यन्ते मुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्भसः.
The agency of action, etc., which belong to the mental equipment are attributed through ignorance to the self, just as movement, etc., of water are attributed to the moon reflected in it. As we said, the same idea is repeated from different angles. That is the subtle difference. Otherwise, whatever is the main thought given in verse 19 is the crux. Verse 21 says, Atma is not connected to the guna and karma. Verse 22 now says, it is not connected to the agency or ownership of that karma. Verse 23 says, it is not connected to the fruits or results of that karma also. So this is the basic difference. When something is not doing, you may ask why it will claim ownership. Actually, the ego does that. So, if you reverse it, you say Atma claims ownership. No. We talk about the entire activities in the world being done by the Supreme Lord or Ishvara, who makes the sunshine, who makes everything function. At least he must claim. So, okay, Atma in its purest form, let us leave it. The Supreme Lord, who is the Ishvara, which is the same Atma only, but it is seen to do all the activities. Does it claim doership even? So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Na kartrutvam, na karmani, lokasya srijati prabhu. Neither actions nor the doership is attributed to the Prabhu or the Lord. How is he doing? Without that he is doing. That's what it is. So, in the 9th chapter, last 4 verses of topic 1, which is I think 7, 8, 9 and 10, if you get a chance, try to read it. It is a very subtle, complex portion which explains what is the relationship between the Supreme Lord and the Prakriti in creation and in doing of all these activities in it. First he says that I am doing it. Then he says that with me as the president, Prakriti is doing it. Then third stage he says, Prakriti only does, I have nothing to do with this. He sort of completely distanced himself from. That is the actual. So step by step, the truth is explained. But it has to be done that way only. Because initially for a person who does all this, God does everything, man. Then when you go subtler into it, he makes us understand that it is not actually me, it is the Prakriti, the nature which is functioning by itself. What do I do? As a disinterested Sakshi, I am only watching it. That's all. And in my watching, it is just functioning. Just like that, he completely distances itself. Now, this is Atma Bodha with reference to that pure Atman. He is saying here, mind and intellect equipments are responsible for the action. What is Atman? Atman is just a detached witness here. Since the mind and intellect equipment which is associated with the body, which is claimed to be me as the individual, he claims that Karta status. Karta means I am the doer status. The fruit or the karma phala comes to him. Whoever is claiming doership, I am doing this action, obviously to him only the results go. Only thing, he has no power to give the results to himself. That's why we say Ishvara is the karma phala data. Because if each and every person has to give results to himself, each and everybody will give all favorable results. That is not the case. You have the right to do the action that you do. And if you claim that I am doing the action, Papa, Punya and all the results of that action, that will be coming to you. That is why as a sadhana, we are told, do the action by renouncing the doership of the action. So actually speaking, individual should not have doership. Atma doesn't have doership. So what is happening? Actually nothing is happening. This is the final stance of Vedanta. Prakriti is doing something by itself. Leave it as it is. Neither you claim doership, neither does he claim doership. So what happens in the results of action? When you are not claiming the action itself is done by me, why will you bother about the results of the action? It will not also touch you. It's a very, very interesting phenomenon. So who claims then I am doing that action? This doership or ownership of the action. And another thing is enjoyership. Kartrutva bhavana and bhoktrutva bhavana are claimed by I, the ego, small I. The capital I or the Supreme Self has nothing to do with any of these things. The equation is small self equals capital Self plus body, mind, intellect. So this is small self, which is the jiva. That is what is claiming all these things. In that example given in Vedanta treatise, there is a what is this? Magnet. Near the magnet you take an iron piece, it gets attracted. Near that magnet you take a wood piece, it doesn't get attracted, it is not touched or affected. What happens when you take the combination of iron and wood piece to the magnet? The iron piece gets attracted, along with it the wood piece also seem to get attracted, seem to get affected, but in reality it is not being touched at all. This combination is what is we, every one of us. Every one of us is a combination of spirit and matter. Everyone is a combination of this iron and wood. Iron is your body, mind and intellect, the material equipments, matter. Wood is the spirit. And only as human beings we have the choice to focus upon either the matter or the spirit. One who focuses on matter is a material person. One who focuses on spirit is a spiritual person. It is tough to maintain your thought on spirit always, but as long as you are able to focus on the spirit and gain that objectivity, you are distancing yourself from it. So when you distance yourself from it, slowly the ownership, which is the enjoyership and the doership, that also goes away. When that goes away, the fruits of the action also does not affect you. So this all comes from the discrimination or the understanding that I am that real Atma, I am that witness consciousness. Everything is done maybe through me as an instrument, as an agent, but I have nothing to do with this. This thought has to be reiterated again and again upon us. Yes.
What is the difference between God and nature? I'm not understanding that.
See, when we use the term God in the sense of how we use in Vedanta, Brahman is the God or Atman. Atman and Brahman are the same. When we use it from macrocosmic point of view, we use the term Brahman. When we use it from microcosmic point of view, it is Atman. But Atman, Brahman, all are the infinite self only. It is same. When you talk about nature in English, there are various words that are used in Vedanta for it. The main words are Prakriti and Maya is also used. Maya is also equated to Prakriti at various places. This Maya or Prakriti is supposed to be the nature of the self. Okay. But the nature of the self is not something which is apart from it, just as the power of a person is not apart from that person, and the power of a person cannot stand independent of the person. There is no power apart from a conscious entity which is holding that power. Therefore, this Maya or this Prakriti, which is an expression in the form of the 5 elements, which is expression in the form of all other things, including the mind, intellect, everything, the power, all this is nothing but the expression of the Atma only. So in that sense, they are not separate. But from our point of view now, we identify ourselves only with that equipments, which is the material equipments, which is the nature, and we may consider Atma to be something different from it, which is sort of enlivening it or giving it power or something like that. But if you transgress this thought with the knowledge, then you come to understand that there is no other thing apart from Atma only. Okay. So as of now, since two are there, we are asked, thought is also part of this nature, you are asked to cross over that nature by that sadhana, and by the grace of that self, when you become realized, you understand that only one thing is there. So nature is, in the present level, nature is not understood as God. Nature is understood as an aspect of God. Like that you can say.
But when they say nature will protect you or nature protects animals, actually the Atman protecting.
Nature protects your animals means, when Swamiji makes that statement in public discourses, what it means is, by virtue of as the functioning of the universe, plants, animals they cannot have a choice to live apart from the natural flow. Okay. So, say for example, seasons are there, animals and birds migrate. For cold season, they are given fur. Summer season, they shed, or the trees shed their leaves in the autumn. Like that, everything is there. So, whatever is required for their existence, survival, it is all a plan that is already functioning in nature. Okay. That power has to be there for human also, and it is there. But a human is given a extra thing called as the intellect. So, since we have a choice, a animal will not go apart from its nature. In the sense, if an animal is not feeling well, its stomach is upset, it will not eat. It will eat some grass or something. That is how it is trained. It will not. But a man can overeat. Even if your stomach is upset, you will eat. Or even if you know certain things are wrong according to what your conscience says, something forces and goes. So therefore, for us, the power of the intellect must be strong enough to guide us. So in that context, Swamiji says, every other creature, that's why there is no conscious sin in the case of animals, or even punya karma, but they cannot commit anything wrong. A tiger will not kill for fun. When it is hungry, it will do. So all that is perfectly planned in nature. So if you take away, let us say, the human population, the world functions by itself. See, at some point of time, they say, dinosaur was there, tyrannosaur, various things were there. Then the nature knows how to balance itself. If one thing becomes big, a virus or bacteria will come and it will kill, like that it is a...
nature is Atman.
No, that nature is the Prakriti that is functioning. That's what I am trying to say. So for human, it is intellect. It is the intellect that needs to be developed. In that context, Swamiji says, nature, every other creature is protected by nature, as it were. For you, in order to exercise the choice of action properly, and what is that intellect actually doing? Making you go along with the nature only. So, human being has a tendency to fall apart from nature. In order to bring him back to the nature, which is what our Shastras and other things ordain. Intellect comes into the picture as an equipment which understands this principle and makes you flow along with that natural flow which is there. So that is the context of the term nature.
Maya is called not that.
That is another explanation, but Maya is also nature. Maya is the nature of Brahman, as it were. So it is both the same. It is not something different. And this is how even Vishishta Advaita and other things, they say these two stay together as it is. One as the part of the other, they stay together as it is. So Maya is nothing but the nature of Brahman, as it were, which expresses itself as the universe, then goes back into it, but it stays as it is. But another explanation of Maya is not that. So that which is not, as you see, that which is not, that is the nature of it.
Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he had a very simple way of explaining this Maya and Brahman, Maya or Prakriti. He would say when it's the active principle, when it is active, you call it Prakriti. When it is inert, you call it Brahman.
But when you say, correct, the inert principle, which is actually motionless, which is actually without any power, has the potential of that power. When that potential comes out in that kinetic form, it is called as the Prakriti, it is called as the Maya, the nature. But this Maya or Prakriti has its locus in the Brahman. It is there seated in the center of Brahman, as it were. Without the Swa, without the I, without the base principle, that doesn't function independently. That is the stance of Advaita Vedanta. So, in this example, the magnet iron piece gets attracted to the magnet, and the wood piece also seem to get affected by the process, but the wood is actually remaining independent of it. Few verses later, he is going to say that this combination is not only unholy but impossible. He is going to say that. What we talk about spirit and matter, this combination itself doesn't exist. When we come there, we'll see. The example that is given in this verses, in a pool of water, moon is reflected. When the water is agitated, when the water is having waves, the moon seems to be agitated. The reflected moon seems to be agitated. But the reflected moon is not affected in any way. Neither is that real moon. But the reflected moon seems to be agitated. That is correct. Why? Because of the nature of the water. Water is getting disturbed. This water can be dull. The reflection in that is very dull. Suppose if you see a thick water of gutter water, or it is very thick and you hardly see any reflection there. That is how it is. When the water becomes extremely disturbed and agitated, the moon is extremely shaky there. But when the water becomes pure and calm and unagitated, you see a very clear reflection. But all this is only reflections in the water. It takes the quality of the reflecting medium. Exactly like that, the Atma seems affected because of the mind. The gunas belong to the Prakriti, the Mayic gunas. They belong to the Prakriti, they belong to the mind. The mind is sometimes sattvic, sometimes rajasic, sometimes tamasic. Tamasic is the dull guna where the reflection is hardly visible. Rajasic is the passionate guna, very agitated guna, where that person is extremely disturbed. He says, I am disturbed, because the eye seems to be disturbed, but the true eye is not disturbed at all, but it seems to be disturbed. As you become more and more sattvic, it becomes more and more clearer, and it is very steady, it is very serene. That is the state of sattva. But all these three are still gunas. One of these gunas is helping you to get out of it, but it is a bondage only. One person, see, there are three thieves in the forest who catch hold of a person. One person says, let us kill that person. One thief says. The other thief says, just take him, tie him up and take all the money and let's go away. The third person says, you take the money, I'll take care of him. And finally what he does is, He leaves him in the edge of the forest and he says, this is your way, you go. Like that he says. He says, you seem to be good, why don't you come with me? No, I have to be here because my association with those two persons only, he says. So the person who says, let us kill him, it's the tamo guna in us. The person who says, let us rob him, that is the rajo guna in us. The person who sort of says, go away, that is the sattva guna in us. But all three have to be there in the forest only. So in the ignorance of this world, when we live as individual, all these three gunas have to coexist. Promote the sattva guna, but ultimately you have to understand, you have to cross the sattva guna also. All these three gunas belong to the Prakriti, Maya or the mind, wrongly attributed to Atman. How do we get rid of this? As in the last Sunday class, what Swamiji said is getting rid of the ego. The karma, bhakti and jnana are the right royal paths. Karma yoga reduces the quantity of desires. Bhakti yoga improves the quality of desires. Jnana yoga changes the direction in your desires. So by practicing this constantly, we will reach a state of renunciation. Then we will reach the state of concentration and meditation. Then samadhi, state of realization. These are scientific step-by-step methods. In and through, our focus must be to keep the thought fixated on the self. See, all that we need to do is, what are these methods? These methods are ways and means by which, how you can fixate the thought on the self. If you can get that fixation by some magic, I would say catch hold of that trick. That's about all. All that finally matters is that if you hold on to that and do nothing else, because in the Gita it says, Anyetu evam ajanantaha shrutvanebhya upaste. They may not know dhyana yoga and karma yoga and other things. But somebody says do this and just they do that. They are able to also cross over this and reach the state of Brahman, he says. So we need to have that attitude of surrender and fixation. Once you do that, you are able to wipe out that reflection. Once that water is taken away, it's evaporated, where is the reflection? Then you realize, I am that moon. I am not that reflected moon. I am actually that moon. That is what this verse says. Yes.
So when you give that magnet as a good example, so one is the spirit and one is the matter. Magnet cannot pull the wood.
Correct.
But you have to tie the magnet with the wood or the other magnet also.
Iron with the wood. You have to tie the iron with the wood. Correct.
Tying that we are doing is with our desires.
Tying means the body, mind, intellect is the matter component. This cannot function without the help of the spirit. And spirit cannot express itself without this. So there seems to be a combination in you. In other words, there is a equipment in you, in me, in everybody, which seems to be different from all. But there seems to be one power which makes this function. So you are essentially a combination of that power. So it is, yes, you can say, in a way, what has bound us with this is the past karma, which is effect of our desires. You can say that. But what we are talking about now is, as you have already taken that position of the individuality now, you understand that you are already a combination of these two. From the relative point of view, you are a combination of these two. But all other creatures cannot even conceive of this combination or think anything about it. But we can learn about this and say, I am not this body, mind and intellect, I am the self. All along, we have strengthened this combination by constantly focusing on the body, mind and intellect only. Now slowly extricate yourself from that and focus on the spirit. That capacity we have. So this is what we mean by combination here.
The only thing we can do is through this abhyas or through the learning can be only separated two.
Correct.
No other way to separate.
There's no other way. Whatever plant you choose to water, that plant will grow. When I am watering the plant that I am this body, I am this mind again and again, that gets strengthened actually. So Vedanta is giving a fresh plant for you to water to say that I am the self. We may not be able to conceive what that self is and catch it now, but that thought, that idea. So various angles, various examples, everything is given in these texts to make us think that way. And once you make that thought stronger, you will put it this way. You will get attached to that and slowly start detaching yourself from this. This is the process. In other words, mind needs for us something to get attached. So what is to get attached is what this knowledge gives us. Yes.
So the doership, what you mentioned, when you do karma, it can be good or bad. So suppose it's a good karma, you don't worry about the fruits. And you should not have the feeling of doership that I've done this good karma. But obviously when you do a bad karma, or do a karma which turns out to be bad, then you have to accept doership for that.
Correct.
So then, how do you handle these two without being kind of, you have to develop a kind of brigade to still have a feeling of doership when you're doing a bad karma and not
Actually, good question. The point is, what happens is, in the Krishna Lila, there's a story that a lady goes to the forest and plucks fruits. And in the basket, she brings all the fruits. And when she enters the village, first house is where Krishna is there, standing in the outside that house. So he's saying, what have you brought? Give me, like that he says. So she keeps the basket down. It has got many fruits. So what she does is, she removes all the unripe fruits and raw fruits. Whatever is a ripe, nice fruit, that she offers to Krishna. And Krishna is very happy with it. He gives her a diamond. This is a very symbolic story. What it means is, you go into the samsara of the forest and you collect all the fruits of your action. Some are good, some are bad. Because we do all selfish karma and unselfish karma also. The fruit of the selfish karma is like the raw fruit. The fruit of the unselfish karma is the ripe fruit. But what can you offer to the Lord? You cannot offer the unripe fruit. So you have to segregate and give only the ripe fruit. Like that, when we are doing actions from selfish, we have to climb to the level of unselfish, and then you go to the level of selfless. So what finally Krishna gives us diamond is the knowledge. It is he who gives the knowledge. So here, a person cannot say, we are told that you do the actions, the results you oblate to God. So therefore, it obviously applies to unselfish actions only. You cannot say that I will do extremely negative and selfish actions and oblate that to God. Because if you analyze as to why you are doing that action, it is prompted by a very powerful inherent desire. So when you are not able to extricate away from it and you are forced to do that desire, you are doing it for yourself. When you are doing it for yourself, that type of action will only come under the purview of selfish actions. From that, if you are by higher knowledge, by higher association with other people and higher level of consciousness, you are able to now think in terms of others. That is why we say, a person who is selfish, only thinking about himself, myself, my body, not even about his family, not even about wife and child, like that. Why will such a person suddenly even think of the family and do any action for that family? Suddenly. He will not do. He will not do. Unless he has been put into that awareness by a teacher or by circumstance or by something, he gets that awareness, only then he will go to that level. And from that level, let us say to the next level, community level or society level, he goes and works like that. For each and every person to go to the next level and act, there has to be knowledge. At that point of time, when you are doing it for that knowledge, which is the highest level of your consciousness at that point of time, it is a great selfless action, I would say. But later what happens? You get into that circle of selfishness. So from there to go to the next level, you need higher level of knowledge. Therefore, as long as when your mind does the actions mechanically, when you do it, that is why beyond the point, selfish actions also bind you, because you go through for the punya aspect of it. Then what is the fruit for me? It comes there also. So to that extent, though it is beneficial for others, it ultimately binds you. Maybe you will do more of that actions. It again binds you. You say that I have to do this action, but the result belongs to you. This is called as Ishvara Arpada Buddhi. That is, you offer the fruits of the action to the Lord as it were, and you just perform the action. Then you do not leave any residue for the action and no further action, meaning you don't get into the bondage. Existing actions also get burnt. So it is not possible for a person to oblate selfish karma or bad karma unto Lord. You have to transfer only into unselfish karma, and that fruit of the action you can oblate to God. That's so, from going from selfish to selfless, you have to pass through various degrees of unselfishness.
So on the selfish or the bad karma, whatever, so don't judge me for what I ask. It's a very mundane or a very negative question. At times you know that you are doing the thought is negative, you're doing a bad karma. But it forces you because of the vasana or whatever, you end up doing the bad karma. And that bad karma in a very weird way gives you peace. So, okay, I've done it. I'm over with it. So how do you handle this kind of situation? Because deep down you know what you've done something wrong. But by doing that only you get peace.
You don't get actual peace, you get a very temporary satisfaction. You get sometimes you take revenge and you say, I got a kick out of it, like that.
You have to do it.
Because you are not able to handle the agitation caused by it. So what makes a person do it is a direct answer given by Krishna in 3rd chapter of Gita. Here he says, it is the force of your desire. It is the force of your anger. It is the kama esha, krodha esha, rajogunasam, the rajas aspect in you. That is why the rajas quality is that which produces sin. As you rightly said, deep within you know it, that it is wrong. But by not doing it, you are in a very agitated state. Okay. Now, this has to be, in a practical sense, this has to be handled. Sometimes, at the time that we need to say no, we need to say no. If we don't do it at that point of time, a time comes later, it becomes very hard to say at the same, mind is agitated and it comes out in a very ugly way later on. So, you have to be very clear in terms of, that is where intellectual clarity comes in. Because the intellect is not clear and we operate by the realms of the mind, we go through all this agitation. So, either, see, it is that when you don't do it also, it is agitation. When you do it, it is a temporary satisfaction, but deep again, you are regretting that action. So either way, it is a lose-lose situation only. So therefore, we need to strengthen the intellect, and when you are refraining from committing that action, you have to use your intellect, keep the mind calm, but again do what is to be done. See, suppose if a person is doing something harm at the personal level, you can go to any extent and forgive him also. That is not, that's a great virtue. That is what we need to develop in, as a sattvic quality it will come. But if a person is doing something wrong and it is affecting your organization, it is affecting the totality of a family or a community like that, then also you need to deal with him in a way that he corrects himself and it is not disturbing. But if it becomes too much, then you need to tell him. And if it doesn't work, you need to remove him from that scenario. All this, but you can do only if your intellect is oriented to what is known as loka sangraha, or welfare of all. The problem of personalization comes because it is affecting me. That is when I wake up. Now this knowledge says, if the water is there getting stagnated in front of your house, only if it affects my house do I go to corporation, lodge a complaint and do the thing to remove it. If it is in neighbor's house, I don't bother. But why don't you take that stance, whether it is in your house or their house, this needs to be removed. So the focus of the intellect is what is the right thing to be done, irrespective of whether I like it or not. That is the stance that we need to take, but each and every person gets triggered only when there is a personal connection. Only when it is personally affecting me, if it is affecting my family, only then I wake up. Doesn't matter. Let the starting point be that. But then slowly but surely you have to start impersonalizing and make it into a common cause. When you do like that, every action that you do will be properly justified. Not only justified, you will also know exactly how to execute it without having any regrets about it. Because you are now operating at a different level, which is from the totality point of view. That is how Krishna was able to manage the entire war. He will definitely be not happy when Bhishma or Drona, they have to die, but they have to die. When they are fighting on the Kaurava side for the establishment of the Dharma and the proper victory of Yudhishthira, this has to happen. He has to finally shrug his shoulders, that's all. Because all the requirements of peace was tried and tested before the war. When nothing worked, this has to be done. When he did that, he did it in a very impersonal way. So we need to bring in that aggressive goodness in our conduct. There's no other way. And intellect that teaches you that aggression.
So here I know what my action will be wrong, but that is only going to give me immediate peace.
That's what I'm saying. It is like saying that by drinking alcohol, I forget all the worries. You know that. But you know deep inside, it is slowly going to wear away your system. But if you want to get out of alcoholic habit, I'm saying the process is different. But what to do now? The pain is too much. I have to do it. Like that only it goes. But that has no justification as it is. the agency of action, etc., which belong to the mental equipment are attributed through ignorance to self, just as movement, etc., of water are attributed to the moon reflected in it. We'll chant verse 23.
रागेच्छा सुख दुःखादि बुद्धौ सत्यां प्रवर्तते सुषुप्तौ नास्ति तन्नाशे तस्मात् बुद्धेस्तु नात्मनः.
Attachment, desire, pleasure, pain, etc. arise when intellect is present. They do not exist in deep sleep when intellect is absent. Hence, they are of intellect but not of Atman. Very simple, powerful, logical verse. He says, intellect is present means it is in the realm of thoughts. That's what it means. We can extend it to interpret according to the meaning of intellect also, but generally what it means here is in the realm of mind and intellect, in the realm of thoughts. Raga, Icha, Sukha, Dukkha. All these are vritti. Vritti means the movement of the thoughts, various aspects or various, modifications of the thoughts. When there is a void that you feel, from that void arises thought. Why do you feel a void? In fact, Vedanta says it's an imaginary void. It's not a real void. Why do you say it's not a real void?
If it was real, it will get filled.
It will get filled, but it doesn't get filled at all. This void seems to be there. Temporarily it seems to get satisfied, but again and again some void. It's either the same thing or different thing comes. I want this, I want that, or I want some other thing. If everything in the world is satisfied, I want heaven. Something or the other keeps on coming. So there is a void. This imaginary void, and also from the point of view of the great masters who have realized the self, they say that it is imaginary void. Because after realization, they do understand it is never a void, was never there. So this void produces a thought. Thought is that which bridges the gap between the void that you feel and the object or being in order to fulfill, or let us say the hope of fulfilling. Yes, it does get fulfilled. For a while it gets fulfilled, but again it comes. That thought develops into attachment. Attachment is referred as raga here. Like attachment is a thin stream of thought flow which holds on to something as though it belongs to me only. Like that, it is bound by it. It is affected by it. That is attachment. You are comfortable with that object. Then, when it becomes stronger, thicker stream of thought flow is called as desire, Icha. Kama is also given, Icha is also desire. Desire means I want it. I want it means I want and possess it. When I want and possess it, I don't want others to have a share in it. That sort of a bonding comes here. It becomes very strong. So raga and Icha, and you then keep on fulfilling that. Various other things are there. That's why he said Adi. Adi means etc. Krodha comes, Moha comes, jealousy comes, fear comes, arrogance. All these are various vritti modifications only. When you fulfill the desire, you have a joy. That is sukha. So sukha's definition is here that it is cessation of agitation. When do you get agitated? When your desires are unfulfilled. By the contact of the object, when the desire is fulfilled, it is temporarily cessation. There is a stoppage of that agitation. That's called sukha. When it is unfulfilled, it is dukkha. It becomes various types of things comes and it is completely, it may turn into hatred, it may turn into anger, various things. It's all some form of dukkha only. All these things, he says, effect is felt on the mind as sukha and dukkha. All the modifications of the thought, you may feel the pleasure or pain out of it. When do we have these experiences of this vritti? We have these experiences of this vritti in waking state and dream state. In these two states, we do go through all these experiences. So experience of vritti is waking and state. Experience of absence is the deep sleep state. So deep sleep is not absence of experience, it is experience of absence, experience of nothing. At that point of time, a sinner or a saint, king or a beggar, literate or illiterate, jnani or ajnani, when they are sleeping, what are they experiencing? They are experiencing nothing. There is no sukha or dukkha as we experience in the waking or dream state. But Atma is there in waking and dream state also. Atma is there in deep sleep also. Right? Atma is that which is making us function in the waking and dream. And Atma is there in deep sleep. Why? Because we know that we slept well. When we wake up, we say, I had a good sleep. That means Atma was awake when you are sleeping. So, in that combination also, you see that Atma is there in all the three states, but the mind and intellect is there only in the waking and dream. It is not there in deep sleep. So, all the effects of that action, who do they belong to? They do not obviously belong to Atma, they belong to intellect. Very simple logic here. Very simple logic that he says they belong to the mind and intellect but not to the Atma. So, verse 21 said that all the karma of the Indriya and the mind, they belong to the equipment, not to the Atma. Then verse 22 said the agency or the ownership of it, that also Atma cannot claim. It belongs to the equipment, if at all. Verse 23 says the result of it, the sukha and dukkha, all this belongs to the intellect. That only goes through all this pleasure and pain, not to the Atma. So if Atma is completely dissociated with all these things, what is the exact nature of Atma? In Swamiji's commentary of the Invocation, Satchit Sukham Paramahamsa Gatim Turiyam, he says Satchit Sukham refer to verse 24. So verse 24 is going to talk about the real nature of Atma. One of the, it may not be anything subtle, but a very key verse of Atma Bodha is verse 24, which actually defines the true nature of Atma, which we'll take it up in the next class.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.